Hello and welcome, I'm Raziel, and so today I want to talk about going mainstream. Now, when things go mainstream, they tend to get sanitized. They tend to get a bit more sterile and a bit more watered down or diluted. And this is to reach a wider audience. You can see this in the horror genre when, horrors started becoming really popular. They stopped getting the R rating and started getting PG-13, or in the UK they stopped getting 18s and started getting 15s and 12s. So basically being able to be sold to more people. So the violence went down, the bad language went down, the nudity went down, and horror films are not films that are meant to be there for you to think about. They're there to scare you. It's like a roller coaster. That's what it's designed to do, is get your adrenaline pumping, your heart pumping. And the horror franchises that maintain to be quality throughout are the ones that stick to, they don't care whether it's an R rating or PG-13 because it's there to scare people. And the same goes for video games as well. We see when a game like Resident Evil goes mainstream, it gets watered down. We saw this with Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil 6. They took out so much of the horror of Resident Evil, the thing that made people want to buy Resident Evil, and that's it, and they stopped. And people just went, we don't like these games. Resident Evil 5 is not a bad game. Resident Evil 6 is just a boring game. But the thing is, what we see with things like this, same with the horror genre, when things start to wane and people aren't buying or going to watch them because they've tried to reach this main audience and watered their stuff down, they go, do you know what? We'll go back to the drawing board. We'll go back to the start and try and get it there. The good example of this is Friday the 13th. No, not Friday the 13th. Nightmare on Elm Street. Now, the remake isn't a bad film. It's a scary film. It's one of my favourites. I know it's a bit heretical to say, but it really is. And I think the Freddy Krueger in remake is a better slasher villain than Robert Englund. Robert Englund isn't bad. The new Freddy Krueger he wasn't funny, and that's what I thought was best about it. The horror villain wasn't there to make you laugh. He was there to scare you, and I enjoyed it. I do enjoy all of them. But that's the reason I do like the new Nightmare on Elm Street. And we kind of saw that again prior with the new Nightmare as well, when they started bringing the horror back and made Freddy Krueger less of a comedian or less comedic and made him more of a threat. Again, it's one of the better ones in my opinion because it's a horror film and not a horror comedy. I have nothing against horror comedies, but if I go to watch a slasher, I do like a good villain. It's why Jason is my favourite. So, anyway, now I rambled on for a bit about what I think about going mainstream and when people go back to what made them good. But also part of this is everything I've mentioned became mainstream and very popular through hard work. And when the audiences stopped going, they just stopped making them, or they went back to their roots. Same with Friday the 13th. Sorry, I really do like Friday the 13th. It's my favourite series. Nightmare on Elm Street and Resident Evil, when things started going downhill, they went back to their roots. Resident Evil 7 and 8 are horror games, and they're really good, but they made the popular choice of being a first-person game rather than a third-person game. And again, with Nightmare on Elm Street, they basically went back to making Freddy scary again, which again is really good. But I understand that people do like Nightmare on Elm Street because it's funny. I understand that. It's probably one of the reasons why it's not one of my favourite franchises. I'm not against it, it's just not one of my favourites. I do like it. Now, when we talk about Games Workshop, when they hit mainstream, it wasn't through tenacity. It wasn't through hard work. It wasn't through building an audience. It was through luck. They hit it big because of luck. And that's it. It was during the pandemic. And Games Workshop seems to forget that's how they got popular. Because when it comes to luck, luck runs out. And when their luck runs out with this, they have not been listening to their core audiences. Once again, going back to Resident Evil and Nightmare on Elm Street, I was going to say Friday the 13th again, because I'm stupid. And they listened to their core audience and they said, right, okay, this is what made our series good, let's go back to that. And they did. And again, it showed that it works because that's what their core audience wanted. And except with Friday the 13th remake, Nightmare on Elm Street remake, because obviously Robert Englund didn't return. That has been one of the biggest complaints of that film. But they did go back. I mean, maybe Robert Englund would have been good, but he is getting on, and it was time for someone else to play him. Fun fact about Nightmare on Elm Street: when they wanted to finish that, The Mask was originally going to be the next horror franchise they were going to do. And if you read the original Mask comics, it makes sense. Yeah, that's a fun fact for you guys. And so, Games Workshop getting there through luck. When the luck runs out, and all these people who joined during COVID and started buying their stuff then, are suddenly just going to disappear. And it will be a quick disappear. Because the fads run dry, it's not what everyone was buying, and they're just going to move on to the next big thing. And if it's something they can do at work or go out with their friends with, that's going to be the next big thing. We've seen this with video games as well, because people got into a lot of video gaming because of COVID and obviously not going out again. They started playing video games, and that's just the thing. And so a lot of video games companies are starting to feel the pinch post-COVID, because people can now go out and they don't have the time to sit at home playing video games or painting and building models, because they're going out with their friends, they're just spending time at the cinema, they're going and all that cool stuff. But here's the thing: when it's through Tenacity, that core custom base, your core audience, has been there from the start, and it's grown with them. And so when you continue making the product of quality, you're less likely to see a massive dip in sales. You're more likely to see a plateau, which is something they don't like. A dip is one thing because then you can learn from it, but a plateau is just stagnation. And what they want to see is growth. Whereas when it's luck, it plateaus. And with Games Workshop, we can see it has plateaued. It hasn't really raised a lot since for about 2 years now. It's literally been sort of even out. And but when their luck runs out, their core audience is small. And when their main audience goes to the ones they're pandering to and not listening to the actual people who helped them get there, they are not going to just lose that audience, they're going to lose their core audience as well. So they're going to feel a pinch a lot harder through lack of quality, and they are starting to feel it, because I literally saw in my local game store several boxes of Skaven Tide on sale, as in literally cut price, because they can't shift them, and not their usual 20% off either. Yeah, they can't sell them, and that just shows you how bad it is, because no one wants to buy it. And their core audience is leaving, they're going 3D printing, they're playing other games, or they're even making their own games. They're just leaving Games Workshop behind now. So when this main part of their audience, which was the new people, I'm not going to call them tourists, alright? When they're gone, there's no core audience, no foundation to fall back on. And if they had just maintained their core audience and what made them popular and what people were buying them for from the start, and just continued that way, they would have seen more growth, because people were getting into it for that, and not just sort of pandering and watering down their lore for the sake of the majority, because it doesn't work. And this sterilization is just going to be worse, and they need to go back. And what really kind of pointed this out for me, and this is ironic actually, because what really pointed out to me how bad the Grimdark has got is the Warhammer Adventure books. I know what people would say, oh, that's the problem. No. There was more gore and violence in those books than pretty much any Black Library book for the main audience and the main adult books since. There's literally I think it's about page or a page and a half of an Inquisitor mounting in Warhammer Adventures books. It's the Chaos one, I think. The Nurgle one. Yeah. That sort of sums this up for you. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Have a great day. I hope you're having fun. I hope you're enjoying the sunshine, if it's sunny where you are. And there are links to Wayland Games down below if you wish to save money on your wargaming, and up to 20% off and free delivery after £20. There is also Forbidden Planet if you like Batman, Superman, One Piece, all that cool, fun, geeky stuff, and merchandise to go with it. There's also my merchandise, cups, t-shirts, stickers, what everyone else does, all designed by me. There's also my comics if you want to see Little Red Riding Hood go ham on some cyborg Lovecraftian werewolves. And there's also Skyforge. Never forget Skyforge, a good friend of mine. Let's get my fat Google algorithm. And finally, there is Patreon because business. Bye-bye.